Good evening again. Again, my name is Brian Baldea. Welcome to the 10th Annual University of Chicago Athletics Hall of Fame Dinner and Induction Ceremony. It's my honor to begin these proceedings this evening to recognize and honor another highly distinguished class of inductees into one of the most storied halls of fame on any college campus anywhere. It is also one of the most unique college athletic halls of fame in that it includes men and women who competed and coached at very different intercollegiate athletic environments, from the Big Ten Conference through the University Athletic Association. We can boast that our Hall of Fame includes athletes, coaches, and administrators who date back to the very inception of college athletics, as well as those who now participate in a program that represents the very ideal of what college sports can and should be. This year's Hall of Fame class of 8 joins the 83 current members representing 19 sports and including 8 administrators. Consider this class's accomplishments. The current class includes 4 All-Americans, 2 NCAA national champions, 2 University Athletic Association champions, 2 all-time university record holders, a 4-time Big Ten champion in 2 separate events, a distinguished faculty member who advocated for and mentored student athletes here for 25 years, a UAA Player of the Year, a UAA Rookie of the Year, and an Amos Alonzo Stagg Medal recipient. We are fortunate to have many current student athletes with us this evening. They and their teammates are striving to continue this tradition of excellence set by our Hall of Fame inductees. In the past year, the Maroons finished in the top 9% of all NCAA Division III institutions in the final standings of the Learfield Sports Directors Cup, which recognizes the top overall athletic programs in the country. We featured 16 All-Americans, 20 national qualifiers, 21 All-Region selections, 3 UAA Most Valuable Players, 3 UAA Rookies of the Year, 91 All-UAA performers, and 238 UAA All-Academic Award recipients. Another great year. At this time, I'd like to just briefly recognize a few people who contribute toward making this the outstanding event that it is. We have a few current Hall of Fame members with us this evening. Would they stand, please? I would also like the chairs of our Graduate Women's Athletic Association and Graduate Order of the Sea to stand. Kate Volzer, Callie Brown, and Dennis Walden. John Craig, would you stand, please? John Craig is an associate professor in the Division of the Social Sciences and the college who serves as our NCAA faculty representative. In that role, he represents our more than 620 varsity student athletes, and furthermore, he's a staunch supporter of all of them, helping some of them to postgraduate honors, mentoring many, supporting many of them at their games, meets, and matches. Thank you, John. And I also would like to briefly recognize and thank Andy Langlace and Mary Kovacs from Alumni Relations and Special Events for all the work they did in putting this incredible event together. At this time, I'd like to introduce Karen Warren Coleman. Karen is Vice President for Campus Life and Student Services here at the university. She initially came to Chicago in 2009 as Associate Vice President for Campus Life and Associate Dean of Students in the university. Prior to this, she served in several roles during a 10-year period at the University of California, Berkeley. Karen has also held student affairs positions at the George Washington University, the University of Vermont, and Hobart and William Smith colleges. She currently holds leadership roles in national student affairs professional organizations, including American College Personnel Association and the National Association of Student Personnel Administrators. Karen has a big job here. The Office of Campus Life and Student Services includes more than 340 staff members in 20 departments, including physical education and athletics. Please welcome Karen Warren Coleman.
Good evening. It's fantastic to see everyone, and it's wonderful to see so many of our student athletes here tonight. As Brian already outlined, my name is Karen Warren Coleman, and I am the Vice President for Campus Life and Student Services, and I'm honored to be here amongst all of our student athletes and guests and inductees this evening. On behalf of the university and President Zimmer, who could not be with us tonight, I'd like to welcome all of you to tonight's Hall of Fame dinner. And I'd like to start out by offering a few words from the President, since he couldn't be here tonight. As we celebrate the 10th anniversary of the University of Chicago Athletics Hall of Fame, I'm very pleased to send my thanks and best wishes to the new Hall of Fame inductees, their friends and families, and everyone in attendance this evening to show their support. I regret that I could not be with you to celebrate tonight. Please accept my heartfelt congratulations to the 2012 inductees and to the family members here on their behalf. Thank you to Lester Munson for serving as MC this evening, and many thanks to the volunteers of this year's selection committee chaired by John Davey for your thoughtful and important work. Athletics creates a strong sense of community on campus and fosters a commitment to excellence that is a hallmark of the University of Chicago. Participating in sports enables our students to appreciate the importance of teamwork and to step into leadership roles. We value the opportunity to recognize our remarkable student athletes, coaches, administrators, both past and present. So thank you for all that you do to support athletics at the University of Chicago. I'd like to extend my congratulations to the friends, family, and members and fellow athletes with us tonight. Our inductees wouldn't be here tonight without your support and encouragement. Today, before we officially recognize those athletes or staff members whose performance or dedication to the University of Chicago athletics has distinguished them and the university, I'd like to discuss the important role that athletics plays here at the University of Chicago. As Brian mentioned, Campus and Student Life oversees a broad portfolio of about 20 departments, and we support students in their work to make sure that they can be successful inside the classroom as we work with them to cultivate their engagement outside the classroom. Physical education athletics is an integral part of that experience, and we thank you for supporting the work that we're doing to support our student athletes. Our student athletes are scholars who focus on academics while excelling beyond the classroom walls. Through their participation in athletics, students have opportunities to develop core interpersonal and communication skills, improve their analytical and strategic thinking, and engage with others with humility and confidence. Recreation and athletics are critical to the university's efforts to build community and enhance student opportunity. The university has a robust program in place with 19 varsity sport teams, 556 intramural sport teams, 39 active sports clubs, and we're committed to maintaining this strong program and growing it even further to expand the opportunities for students and community members. As we recognize today the devotion, dedication, and drive exhibited by all of our inductees during their time at the university, I also want to take a moment to recognize Tom Weingartner for his service to athletics at the university and to highlight several of his accomplishments. Tom served as 22 years as University of Chicago Director of Athletics and Chairman of Physical Education and Athletics, and he was the driving force behind establishing the Hall of Fame in 2000. He was instrumental in planning and building the Gerald Ratner Athletic Center, which, when it opened in 2003, was the first athletic center since the 1930s, a fact that my husband, a graduate in the late 1980s, reminds me of every day. He's quite cranky that Ratner didn't exist while he was here, and he's very pleased that it exists now. During Tom's tenure, the University of Chicago sent teams and athletes in 16 different sports to NCAA Division III postseason competition, and captured University Athletic Association team titles in 11 sports. Thank you, Tom, for your service, dedication, and direction. I look forward to your continued contributions to athletics and all of the good work that you will do in your new role. Now, we didn't let Tom go very far. Now, as we prepare to induct our newest 8 members, I want to applaud each of our inductees for your accomplishments and contributions to intercollegiate athletics. From track and field champion Dale Lett's NCAA title win in 1931, to Neal Rodak's achievements as 2-time All-American in 1997 and 1998, to Susie Gutowski's achievement of first-team All-American in 2005. Our inductees this evening are a diverse group of athletes whose careers and achievements span a broad spectrum of time, sports, and traditions. We also have with us this evening Arnie Duncan, U.S. Secretary of Education, who will accept a plaque on behalf of his father, Starky Duncan, one of this evening's inductees. It is my great pleasure to congratulate you as you join our elite group of athletic alumni. Enjoy this evening, and thank you so much for supporting our student athletes.
Thank you, Karen. I'm pleased to welcome back our Hall of Fame Master of Ceremonies again this evening. Lester Munson is a writer, reporter, and producer at ESPN and ESPN.com, specializing in legal affairs and investigations. Previously, he served on the staff at Sports Illustrated. Lester also teaches extensively, with his principal teaching work now as an adjunct instructor at Northwestern University's Medill School of Journalism. Lester earned his JD from the University of Chicago Law School. Lester has received numerous awards for his work using his unique combination of journalistic skills, investigative abilities, and courtroom experience. Please join me in welcoming Lester Munson.
I'm sorry about the Northwestern, but you know, I'm listed in the phone book, and anybody at this university can call me. I'll be here. It's a real privilege for me to serve as the MC. It's my 10th year doing this. I'm not sure anything I do means more to me than this. We who are sports writers are rarely invited anywhere. And there are plenty of good reasons for that. But I've been invited back here, and I always look forward to it. Just to give you some idea of why I enjoy this so much, I could remind you that for the past several months, I have been reporting and writing about Roger Clemens, Jerry Sandusky, and Lance Armstrong. So I feel just nice and clean being here. It seems that I've been piling on Lance Armstrong for 3 weeks. I hope this comes to an end. I am something of a scandal monger. I love working on scandals, but some of these do go on a bit too long. The other night at 11 o'clock in the evening, I find myself in a television studio in the John Hancock building on Michigan Avenue doing a television show, again, piling on Lance Armstrong, and I'm doing this for New Zealand. I'm not even sure where that is. I don't even know what time it was or what day it was in New Zealand, but they wanted to hear negative information about poor Lance. It's important to me to be involved in a program like this where we honor a college athletics program where everything is done in exactly the right way. It's important that we tonight, as we honor these people, recognize the proper balance between athletics and academics. It is a serious issue. in our culture at this time. Some of you know that the great journalist Taylor Branch recently published an article in The Atlantic in which he tried to explain how badly things are going in college athletics. It's a watershed article. It is now available as an e-book. It's about the NCAA, and it's called The Cartel. This is very important journalistic work. It's so important that I had to learn how to read an e-book. I had never tried to do that before. Just this past Wednesday, the day before yesterday, I spent a good portion of the day with Mark Emmert, who is the president of the NCAA, talking with him about Taylor Branch's work, about our work at ESPN, and about this important balance. And I must say it was a bit of a discouraging time listening to him explain that everything is actually just okay. I don't even need to talk to you about Penn State to describe and to define the problem for you. Let's consider just 4 random universities: Georgetown, University of Connecticut, University of North Carolina, and, I'm sorry about this, Mr. Secretary, Harvard. At Georgetown, I have a graduate student in my class at the aforementioned university north of here, who is a graduate of Georgetown University. While she was there, she was looking for an elective to take, and so she signed up for a course at Georgetown called Theater and the Catholic Imagination. This is a course that only the Jesuits would offer. Theater and the Catholic Imagination. Some of you may be aware of the Jesuits and their tendencies. We know that they played a historic role in the Counter-Reformation. We know that they have started great educational institutions, including a couple here in Chicago. And what maybe some of you don't know is they are totally committed to the sport of basketball, particularly to winning basketball. So at Georgetown, as she walked into this course, Theater and the Catholic Imagination, she noticed in the room of 26 people, 9 of the varsity basketball players. This is a scandal waiting to happen. She found out that the reason they are in this course is everybody gets an A. It's that simple. Basketball is important to the Jesuits. University of Connecticut, just in the last couple days, the news from the University of Connecticut, which is a neighbor of us at ESPN, we now know the graduation rate for their basketball players. Several years ago, they decided they wanted to be competitive. They wanted to be a top team in the United States. They are graduating 11% of their basketball players, and this is something that on the sport page is printed in the tiny agate type, 6-point font. We don't even view it as news at this point. University of North Carolina, one of the great universities, no question about it, has been fighting an athletic scandal for nearly 2 years. Gifts were given to players from agents who wanted to sign them up for their pro career. One entire department had to be eliminated because the sole purpose of the department seemed to be to keep student athletes eligible. There were numerous other episodes of academic malfeasance. Both the football coach and the athletic director are now gone. Just in the last couple of days, one of the football players, a boy named Eric Highsmith, has been caught plagiarizing for a blog. His assignment in his course was to write a blog, and he plagiarized from a website written by 11-year-olds for 11-year-olds. Incredible. Since when did writing a blog become an academic exercise? That would be number one. And here this football player is hanging around websites for 11-year-olds. They're trying to reform things at the University of North Carolina. Their idea of reform is they hired a new athletic director. He's a guy with a 21-inch neck, and his first name is Bubba. Bubba Cunningham. Harvard. In 2008, Harvard, I'm sorry about this, Arnie Duncan, but we have to talk about Harvard. We're University of Chicago here. There's nothing I can do. In 2008, Harvard decided it wanted to be competitive in basketball. It began recruiting players with a lower academic standing than the rest of the university. They changed the average index number, dropped it about 30 points so that they could bring in basketball players, win the Ivy League, and then go to the NCAA tournament. It was a deliberate, conscious choice made at Harvard. There were many people who criticized it at the time. Among the critics was Craig Robinson, who at the time was the coach of Brown and suddenly found himself recruiting against Harvard, and Harvard had lower standards. Craig Robinson, of course, is now the coach of Oregon State, and his sister, Michelle, lives in the White House, for those of you who haven't yet made the connection. This program succeeded for a while at Harvard, and now it has become a scandal. There's a course at Harvard called Government 1310, Government 1310. The name of the course is Introduction to Congress. It is said to be the easiest course on the entire campus, and so nearly 300 people signed up for it at Harvard. Within those 300 people were almost the entire baseball team, the men's basketball team, and a good portion of the football team. They had a take-home exam. They didn't have to write a blog like at UNC. They had a take-home exam. I'm not sure there's a big difference, but the co-captains of the basketball team, among others, have been caught cheating on the take-home exam. There is a controversy over this. Some of the students are claiming that the university is wrong, but we have 120 students in trouble for this exam, and half of those are varsity athletes. If this can happen at Harvard and Georgetown and North Carolina, then it's doubly important for us to recognize what we are doing here. And that is what we do tonight. We recognize an athletic program that is doing things the right way. Our student athletes are both students and athletes. If there's a conflict between class and practice, they go to class. Now, before we start the inductions, we have 8 inductions, as Brian and Karen have mentioned. I would like to exercise 2 points of personal privilege. Number 1, I would like to introduce you to our son and our grandson, Lester Munson III and Jonas Munson. There they are. Les played football here and graduated in 1989. We have Jonas sitting at the table with Mike McGrath, the basketball coach. And the reason for that is Jonas is 12 years old. He's in the 6th grade. He is wearing size 13 shoes. And he is averaging a double-double on his travel basketball team. So McGrath has a big guy coming in a few years. Now, I would like to add a few thoughts to what Karen said about Tom Weingartner and his time here at the university. She covered the basic structure, the basic outline of what he accomplished in his 22 years. We have entirely new facilities. We have the Ratner Center. In addition to the Ratner Center, Tom is responsible for the turf and the lights that are on Stagg Field right now. It's a typical piece of work by Tom Weingartner. A man came into his office one day and was complaining about the soap in the locker room. The soap was not good. This man was Bernie Del Giorno. I should have just given you his initials, but he's laughing at me right now. Bernie was not happy about the soap. Tom, ever the alert athletic director, the leader of our program, is talking to Bernie, and he says, you know, Bernie, we need turf. We need lights. Bernie says, okay, if you give me some decent soap, I'll give you the $2 million. Now we have turf and lights. His list of accomplishments is absolutely breathtaking. He rejuvenated the Order of C with a lot of help from John Davy. You heard about the intramural and the club sports that we have here. There are more people using the Ratner Center each day than any other building on the campus. He expanded the department in interesting ways. He hired a series of brilliant young coaches. Many of them are here tonight. Others are busy because they have competitions. I am told that early in his time here, Tom Weingartner encountered a volunteer assistant graduate coach. This is a young person who comes into coaching and they work as a volunteer. It's kind of a glorified internship. And he said to this young assistant volunteer coach, "How old are you?" And the young coach said, "Well, I'm 22 years old." And Tom's response was, "I have ties older than you." Time marches on. The assistant coach is now our basketball coach. And guess what? He has his own volunteer graduate assistant coach. And Weingartner walks up to this guy and he says, "Tell me, how old are you?" And he says, "Well, I'm 21 years old." And he says, "I have ties older than you." And at that moment, he was wearing the same tie that he was wearing when he gave that line to McGrath. When he arrived here, the university was struggling to stay even in the University Athletic Association. Most of you know that this is probably the most interesting athletic conference in all of college sports. It has been written up in peer-reviewed articles as the proper way to balance athletics and academics. Since he has been here, you heard all the championships, all the Final Fours. Brian gave you the list of the honors for our athletes during the past year. It's been like that every year for the 10 years that we have had this Hall of Fame. He manages to accomplish all this with extraordinary charm. He seems to make things look easy, although I am suspicious about the emails that I get from him that are 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't know how anybody does that. Some people know how to work a room. You see politicians who would come in here and they would work the room and they'd make some friends. Tom is the only guy I have seen who works an entire gymnasium. If you see him at a basketball game, he says hello to 300 people. At a football game, it's even more. I was sitting at a game a couple years ago, a football game, and sitting in front of me was this enormous high school kid. As it turns out, he was a football player that our university was recruiting. Tom came over, he said hello to me. He figured out that this kid was a recruit, and then he sat and worked on that boy and his mother for 2 quarters. I'm sure he's here somewhere. There's no way to resist. Now, there are some things that don't quite fit into this picture. For one thing, Tom is a Francophile. All things considered, he would rather be in Paris. He's the only athletic director who, when he hears Notre Dame, thinks it's a cathedral. Our rowing team now competes in an event in Paris. They were there last fall. They've already been there this fall. Based on what Tom knows about the French, what he knows about Paris, it was the first American rowing team ever invited to this annual event. Recently, he participated in a conference and a series of debates in Paris on the role of sports in society. Think about this. Imagine the athletic director of Clemson, say, or Auburn, going to Paris and debating the role of sports in society. He began his athletic career at Evanston High School, where he starred in basketball and football. I think he really wanted to be a basketball player, but there were people 6'8" who were doing the same things he was doing at his size, so he had to stay with football. He went to Stanford. He played some linebacker. He loves to tell stories about trying to tackle O.J. Simpson, but I do know that in the Stanford yearbook there is a picture of him actually making one of those tackles. In those days, they did not keep track of missed tackles. So perhaps that's why we think of him as a great linebacker. He and his wife, Susan, are famous for their hospitality. They entertained the entire athletic staff in their house on Harper Avenue often, at least twice a year. Wonderful gatherings that begin late in the afternoon and continue quite late at night. There are usually cigars in the course of this evening. I'm not quite sure how all that happens, but that's definitely a part of the evening. It's easy to find their house. It's purple. It's the only purple house on Harper Avenue. There's also something funny that happens in the athletic department, and that is telephone calls come in for Tom from Bill Cosby, the Bill Cosby. For some reason, he thinks Tom is his athletic director. I guess if you're as famous as Bill Cosby is, you get to have your own athletic director, and for some reason, Tom is. So if you come here in the next year or two and you see a building named after Bill Cosby, you'll know that Tom has performed his magic in the development office. Most importantly, he was the right guy in the right time in the right place. He was perfect for this university. He understands the role of athletics at a great university. It is not easy to maintain this balance, as we have discussed already. And he has managed to keep everything growing, doing better, and still maintaining the proper balance. I am happy to know that he will still be with the university. I know that I will miss him as the athletic director. The students will miss him. The coaches will miss him. I think the university will miss him as athletic director. I'm glad I'm not on the group that's going to try to find somebody to succeed him and do as well as he did. I think this is a good time for us to show Tom how much we appreciate all he has done for our university. This is our 10th class to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. We have 2 soccer players, 2 track stars, a wrestler, a swimmer, a basketball player, and Starky Duncan, one of the great administrators in the history of this program. They now are a minister, 3 lawyers, a professor, a physicist, a comedy writer and actor, and an expert in mass transportation. It is always amazing to learn what the student athletes are doing as they move on in life from the University of Chicago. Our first inductee is probably the greatest offensive player ever to play soccer at this university. He scored 49 goals in 3 years. The next leading scorer after him is a guy named Paul Schuster, who scored 48, and that took him 4 years. Incredibly, these 2 guys played together. Paul is here. Where are you? Stand up. Way over there by the fireplace. Paul Schuster. These 2 guys playing together were like Jordan and Pippen without the baggage. They were good citizens as well as good soccer players. In the course of 3 games in 1971, Dennis Ball scored, get this, 5 goals against Triton College, 5 goals against Northwestern, 3 goals against the Moody Bible Institute. That's 13 goals in 3 games. A soccer game, let's face it, it's usually 1-0. Entire leagues don't score 13 goals in 5 games. These guys were scoring like nobody has before or since. They played a powerful offense. I can tell from the scores in the record book that maybe their defense was not so great, but they were lined up in a 3-3-4 formation with 4 people attacking the goal. In his final game, Dennis scored the winning goal against Wheaton College. Do not underestimate Wheaton College. Wheaton College is the evangelical school out west of here. It has always been a soccer powerhouse. The school is full of missionary kids who played soccer where they're serious about soccer in Africa and other places. So to beat Wheaton is an amazing achievement, and that's what these guys did in their final game. Dennis Ball was incredibly fast on his feet. His shot was like out of a cannon. He could dribble through an entire defense. In any encounter with another player, Dennis was the one who was still standing. He is now the bishop of the Holy Church of America. His church, known as the House of Prayer, is near Pasadena, California, and he is here with us tonight. Dennis, please come up. Congratulations. Congratulations. Take a picture. Okay. Here's your plaque. There you are. Let me put it back there.
Now, if I was at my parish, my church, I would say, praise the Lord. Hallelujah. I'm extremely happy to be here tonight, and I want to give thanks, first of all, to this fine, outstanding academic institution, University of Chicago. This place changed my life in many ways, and I want to thank the administrators, the officers, and those that are serving, those that have served, for giving me the opportunity to come to this fine, fine institution. Changed my view and my outlook. Secondly, I want to give thanks to the team that I served with, I played with here when I was at this school as a student. It was an incredible team. That which I accomplished was due to the fact that we worked together as a team and as a community. And I just want to express my thanks, especially to one of my good friends on that team, Paul Schuster, who, for some reason, has caused me to be telling the untruth for many years. For I thought for many years that he had scored 50 goals and I had scored 49. But he's the one that corrected that, and I just want to thank him for his support and for his friendship. And it was a wonderful team. It was quite a ethnically and culturally diverse team. And I just want to thank the Lord and thank this school for investing in students coming from such different backgrounds. Finally, I do want to thank my family that's here tonight, my wife Elizabeth, my son Dennis and my son David, my daughter Judith and Claudia, and my two grandchildren that are here with me tonight. I met my wife right here at this school at a Bible study we were having at the frat that I lived at, and that also changed my life quite a bit. Amen. Thank you for this opportunity, and I'm just grateful for being a part of this great community of athletes, persons who have invested themselves in a good education, and also who have been excited and played in various sports endeavors. I'm just grateful to be a part of this, and I want to thank you for this space and for this opportunity. Thank you. This is a good plaque I have here.
We stay in the sport of soccer for our next inductee. She was an All-American and UAA Player of the Year in 1999. She's the second leading scorer in the history of our university. She was a fierce competitor, even in practice. Even in practice, she became well known for arguing every rule and every point. The coaches would sometimes set up advantages for those opposing her in practice just to see how she would react. And she always reacted the same way, fierce competitor. She scored the most important goal of the women's soccer program in the history of this university. 1996, they were playing McAllister. The winner would make a trip to the Final Four. She scored from long range in the first half, and the Maroons then held on in the second half and won the game. See what that was? 1-0. Nobody was scoring 5 goals. Throughout her years here, she played, as they say, on top, but she always thought that she was a midfielder. For 4 years, in all of these games, a Hall of Fame career, she thought she was playing out of position. And so she would argue with the coach, Amy Reifert, and say, "Coach, I'm playing in the wrong position. Recruit somebody to play in front so I can come back and play midfield." Now, all that arguing was part of her education here. She is now, of course, a lawyer. So the soccer program here provides all sorts of bases for the rest of your life. She represents foster children who are in legal difficulty in the state of Massachusetts. She continues to play soccer. She plays on teams with various members of her family. There's an age group soccer program called the Veterans Cup. They play and they win in these age groups. Even her mother plays in the over 60 age group. So help me welcome into the Hall of Fame Jessica Berry.
Gosh, after that, I'm not sure I can convince you that I'm actually not that fierce or intimidating. But I just want to thank you all so much for this honor and congratulate all of the other inductees who are being honored tonight. This is such a great event, and I know that I've really stepped up in the world because the last athletic banquet that I attended at the U of C actually involved glow sticks. So. At the risk of making this sound like an Oscar speech, I do want to just quickly thank my brother Sam for making the trip in from San Francisco to be here tonight, and my college friend Karen, who cleared her professional schedule in order to make it. And of course, I want to say a big thank you to all of my parents who have always been and continue to be my super fans. So I'm a little nervous. I do feel a little weird standing up here without any of my teammates. And I definitely would not be up here if I had not had such an amazing team and coach. I want to especially recognize tonight the teammates from my class of 2000 who are amazing women and who made me a better player and, in most cases, a better person. We won't go into the few exceptions right now. They should, and I hope they do know, as I know, that, that this honor reflects so much on them, and unfortunately, actually most of them are here tonight. So real quickly, I just want to recognize Amanda Vogler, our ball handler in the middle. Just wave, Amanda. All right. Amy Gleisner, our stalwart defender and motivational speaker. Rachel Frank, our emotional support, who put up with a lot of highs and some very low lows. Cinnamon Pace, the unstoppable outside midfielder who might have also be the nicest person I've ever met in my whole life. And Molly McQuillan, our sassy midfielder / forward, and the creative mind behind my hair back then and also tonight. And finally, Kate Cordes, someone who actually was more fierce and, I know it's unbelievable, but more fierce and competitive than I am, who couldn't make it tonight because she actually currently coaches college soccer and is in the middle of season. I'm very excited about this honor for me, but especially for all of us who were very successful on the field and also had a lot of fun in the process. Thank you.
My wife Judy and I first met Starky Duncan during our son's first year here at the university. We were attending a football game, watching our son play, and this interesting-looking, slender guy walks up, introduces himself, and that was how we met Starky Duncan. We became friends, going to football games all over the place for the next 4 years. He seemed to know everything there was to know about this university and about the life of the student athlete. He was, as you've heard earlier, the faculty representative for the department. He also represented the university with the NCAA. He was a professor of psychology, and he studied verbal and nonverbal communication. There would be times at a football game when nothing was happening, and I would try to find out from Starky, what is this that you're doing here? And he told me 5 or 10 different times what he was doing, but I was unable to completely comprehend it. It was just too complicated. But I think if you're in a long-term marriage and you're driving the car and your wife is sitting next to you and you're darting in and out of traffic, what you're seeing from your wife is verbal and nonverbal communication. That's the only way I can explain it. But he was an expert on this. He was the best friend, as Brian has said, to 500 or 600 students who were representing the university in intercollegiate competition. Quietly, effectively, he advocated for quality in the athletics program everywhere that he went. He wanted to improve the coaching, he wanted to improve the facilities, the schedules, the travel, all that went into the life of a student athlete. He was involved in setting policy at the highest level. He was involved with Tom in the design of the Ratner Center, and he advised presidents and deans of this university. Whenever one of our athletes needed a recommendation for an NCAA postgraduate scholarship or for a Rhodes Scholarship, they all went to Starky Duncan, who wrote the greatest letters of recommendation anybody ever saw. There is a story about him. It may be apocryphal. I say that because I want you to know I can use the word apocryphal. This is the University of Chicago, after all. Early in his career as the faculty representative, there were some problems with the condition of the athletic fields. There was a board that governed these matters at the university at that time. They organized a meeting. Starky came into the meeting. He was carrying a huge, heavy bag full of stuff. As the meeting began, he dumped the bag, the contents of the bag, onto the table. Pieces of glass, rocks, pieces of metal, debris of all kinds that he had taken up from the practice fields where our athletes were practicing. Obviously, he made his case that these fields needed work, and the upkeep of the fields improved very quickly. As parents of a football player, we were involved in providing food for the players after the games. The guy who ate most of the food was Starky Duncan. A slender, good-looking guy, and we were all envious of the fact that he could consume everything that was there on the table and never seemed to gain a pound. Accepting the award for his father is a guy who may well be the best athlete in this room, but he is never going to be a member of this Hall of Fame. He went to the wrong school. He went to that school in the East that we talked about earlier. He was and is a terrific basketball player. You know that he is a member of President Obama's cabinet and that he was the CEO of the Chicago Public Schools. He did so well there that they've already gone through 4 people trying to replace him. The last one is a woman who's been there for 2 weeks, and from what I've heard, she's not unpacking her boxes. She's not too sure about the whole thing. They're having a tough time finding a replacement for Arnie. For a long time in this neighborhood, you would see young black kids playing basketball on the playground, and there would be a long white guy in there with them playing as well or better than all of them. That was Arnie Duncan. He became an elite player. He can shoot. He has great vision of the court. He reminds a lot of people of Larry Bird when you watch him play. If you are playing on his team, you must be very alert because he is the master of the no-look pass. If you're not looking, the ball will be hitting you in the stomach, and you will be embarrassed that he has passed the ball to you when you are totally open. He's a guy that you want to have with the ball at the end of the game. After becoming a somewhat legendary player in Chicago on the playgrounds, he played professional basketball in Australia. One of his coaches, we owe Arnie a debt of gratitude that some of you may not know about. One of his coaches at Harvard was Tom Thibodeau. Do we know who he is now? Coach of the Chicago Bulls, probably the best young coach in the NBA. It was Arnie who wrote the letter of recommendation to Jerry Reinsdorf to hire this guy. So we owe a debt of gratitude not only for his leadership and education, but for getting us a terrific basketball coach. Arnie is here to accept for his father, Starky Duncan.
Thank you so much, Lester. On behalf of my sister Sarah and brother Owen, we're thrilled to be here to accept this award. Hearing all the stories of the athletic prowess of the other inductees, I have to say honestly, my dad is probably the biggest non-athlete to ever get into an athletic Hall of Fame. His prowess wasn't on the court of the field, but my dad had two loves. He loved our family and he loved the university. And athletics was a huge part of what attracted him to UC. My sister and brother and I grew up going to hundreds and hundreds of games, going back to the old Henry Crown where there was one court and a big dirt floor before there was a second floor. And we wouldn't just go to the games, we'd stay afterwards. And he would talk to the coaches and he would talk to the players. And for us three growing up, those players were our Michael Jordans, they were our Scottie Pippens. And having those relationships and getting to know them was unbelievably inspirational to us. He was so proud of being the faculty representative to the NCAA. We would talk often at night at the dinner table around the values that Lester talked about of students first, athletes second. As I've tried to challenge the NCAA to raise graduation requirements and knock the University of Connecticut out of the NCAA tournament this year, those lessons, those stories constantly come back to me. One of the other things he was so proud of was helping to form the UAA. We think that is an amazing conference. Having Division III athletes have the chance to travel the country and be on the road, that never happened before. He worked very, very hard on behind the scenes to make that happen. But for all the games that he went to, and I guess he was a super fan, he got more out of it than anything he gave. He had so much respect for the coaches, so much respect for the student athletes. I think for him it was part of an extended family, and for us growing up it was a unique, unique experience. So thank you so much for honoring him. We're deeply humbled and greatly gratified to be part of this family, and I can't tell you how much this team meant to him. Finally, Tom was a great, great personal and professional friend. Tom, congratulations on your remarkable work. Thank you so much for having me tonight.
We're going to stay in basketball for our next inductee. She started out as Rookie of the Year in the UAA. She then improved year by year and was an All-American by her junior year. She finished as a leader in the university in 8 different offensive categories. She played in 75 games and scored in double figures in 48 of them. She had 11 double-doubles in her career. In her senior year, she led the team with 13 blocks. She was second in steals with 34 and third in assists with 65 assists. This means that when Susie Gutowski caught the ball, there was a chance she might pass it to you. Every other basketball player in this Hall of Fame, I think, total career assists, 0. They were all shooters. All they wanted to do was score. Here we have a total player who also was capable of double-doubles and had a large number of assists. She now works at Groupon, where she writes getaway ads, but her real love is comedy writing and acting. She has been in the Improv Olympics, now known as the I.O., for 3 years. This is the organization that produced Tina Fey, Chris Farley, and about half of the cast of Saturday Night Live. You can see her perform Sunday evenings. The place is on Clark Street, very near Wrigley Field. Her team is known as Deep Schwa. Deep Schwa. I've never heard that word before. It's a linguistic term and it has something to do with vowel sounds, and it looks a lot like an upside-down E. The reason I bring up the improv is the former coach of the women's team, Aaron Russell, a brilliant young man. We lost him to Bucknell a little while ago. He and Susie came up with the idea of using improv as a team builder. It's a technique that has worked very well. The girls' team came very near a national championship, had a wonderful season last year. At one point during the improv, they wanted Coach Russell to join the girls in the improv exercise. It was a kind of group dance. But and Coach Russell knew that he would have to go along with them. But just to show you how smart he is, before he did the improv with the women on the team, he had them all put all their cell phones over here so nobody could do a video or anything of him. If we had that video, we could have kept him. He wouldn't have gone to Bucknell. But help me welcome Susie Gutowski. Pretty cool, huh? There you are. Thanks.
Oh, don't take my notes. Hi, I'm Susie Gutowski, and I just wanted to thank you all for being here and celebrating this, and especially to the selection committee, because I almost didn't open the piece of mail that came that said I was going to be inducted. And it was a great surprise, and I was just so flattered and thankful for, I mean, it's just a huge honor. In my time, I just wanted to acknowledge Coach Roussel, who was my coach just my second 2 years, and just entirely changed the shape of my career. My first 2 years, I was good, but real unpredictable. I didn't know a lot of our plays. Our first team run, it was less than 3 miles, and I almost threw up. And I had the same body type that I have now and couldn't lift the bench press. I mean, I was a mess as far as a college basketball player was concerned, and it kind of showed. You know, scoring like 9-10 points a game, and that's great, but when Coach Roussel came, it just changed everything. He joined the team a week before the season was supposed to start, and he was 22 at the time, which was 2 years older than I was. And he told us that the coach, she resigned a week before, and he was supposed to be the assistant. And we were like, who is this guy? Like, does he have qualifications? There are 15 of us, and this is important to us. And he told us everything was going to be fine, and he was right, and it changed. I went from being like a mediocre player to scoring double-doubles almost every game my junior year and being named an All-American. And I almost quit after my sophomore year. I wasn't enjoying it, and if it's not fun, why would you do it? And I was like, you know what, I'm going to give it one more shot, and if 2 weeks in, if I don't want to do it, I don't have to do it. And because of his leadership and the type of positive energy that he brought, it brought out a thing in me that was so much better than I'd ever been before. And I'm just so thankful that that happened. And it's it's just so cool when things happen that way. You're about to quit, and then the best thing happens to you. So I really wouldn't have, like literally, this would not have happened if he hadn't come in. So I just want to give my thanks. He's not here because he has accepted a new position, because he's great. But without him, I really just wouldn't have been here. So I'm really thankful for that. Thank you to my family who's here. Thanks again to the selection committee, and thank you guys for listening.
Our next inductee transformed the university track program from just another program into a national contender. In his senior year, he set records in the 5,000 and the 10,000. His time in the 10,000-meter race was the fastest in the United States. Just to give you some idea of what he accomplished and how fast he was going, the 10,000 meters is a race that is 6.2 miles long. 6.2 miles. If you calculate his time over the 6.2 miles, he was doing those miles at an average of 4 minutes and 47 seconds per mile. Think about that. We have joggers, we have elite runners who are trying to run 6-minute miles, maybe 8-minute miles. He ran 6 in a row at 4:46 when he set the record for that year. He managed to excel at the most elite level while completing a double major in math and physics. Math and physics. These are majors where there are right answers. I was a history major. I can fake my way through anything unless it involves math and physics, because I know that there are right answers. His coach, Chris Hall, at one point asked him how he managed to be at the top of his departments while still performing at the elite level, and he said, "Coach, it's just priorities," as if anybody could do what he did by setting priorities. He then did a PhD at University of Pennsylvania. He is now doing a postdoc at Berkeley. He is married to Clarice, another track star from this university, and they are here with Xavier tonight. Where is he? He's over here somewhere. Oh, Xavier has left the room. Oh, there he is. He's in the back. That would be Xavier, 6 months old. If you go to their house in Berkeley, you will notice that Nike, Reebok, and Adidas are lining up at the door to sign Xavier to a shoe contract. I thought Tom Haxton put it beautifully in the program. You can see it on page 6 when he discussed this athletic program. I found that working together toward common goals with friends and teammates both lightened the burden of our training and amplified the faith I had in my own abilities and preparations. While I doubt I will ever find quite the same experience elsewhere in life, I keep its memory as a reminder of what is possible when work, confidence, and camaraderie conspire. What a wonderful statement. Tom Haxton. There you are.
Well, thank you, Lester, for the kind words. You know, they actually do give partial credit in math and physics. So it was actually on the track that I kind of learned the importance of setting goals, and there's really nothing to hide behind when you're out trying to run your best and you got to beat the other guy. So I want to mainly thank the family and friends and my wonderful coaches and teammates, not only for supporting me in my athletic career here, but really providing such a wonderful experience while I was at the University of Chicago. The nice thing about running is that, while you might not think of it as a team sport, you're really out there with your teammates, shoulder to shoulder, training every day, and it was really a great experience to do it here, where there are, people from different majors, so many interesting people to train with and go for the same goals. So my teammates and I in college, we had a good sense of history, so it really means something to me to be put down in the University of Chicago history books. We started a few traditions, and it's always heartwarming to find out that, even 10 years out, the kids that are maintaining these traditions, they have no idea where they came from. So they think it's something that passed down from many years ago. So that's always rewarding. And we also like to kind of connect with the past. One nice thing that we did my senior year, they were converting Bartlett Gym into a cafeteria, but they still had the old running track around the top floor. And one of my teammates found out that this was basically the same track, although it was now had carpet instead of a track surface, that they'd used for competitions way back in the early 20th century. And they found out the old records, and they realized the mile run, the record was held by another Hall of Fame member, Jim Lightbody, who was a 3-time gold medalist in the Olympics. And so we went out, the very last race I did as a University of Chicago track runner was running this race. Several of us tried to break his old record, and that was a lot of fun. So thank you to the university and all my friends and family. Thank you very much.
Our next inductee went to the lab school. He attended the college here, obviously, and he also did his PhD in economics here, a true son of Hyde Park. He also happens to be the fastest swimmer ever at this university. He swam in the now notorious 20-yard pool in Bartlett Gym. Everywhere he swam, he set pool records, meet records, and conference records. There was an event in that Bartlett pool, the 60-yard sprint, 3 laps, 2 turns in that horrible pool. It was an event that was only here in this pool. Nobody else offered that, and it's an event that Tom Lisco, our inductee, never lost. He became famous in relays. He was always swimming the anchor leg of the relay. Frequently, he would start out well behind, and somehow, in race after race after race, was able to overtake the lead swimmer, and as a result, his team set relay records that stood for a long time. He's a very interesting character. If you look on page 7 of your program, he offers words of advice on such things as how to create footnotes and the significance of money in our culture. It's only at this university that you have athletes offering that kind of advice. After his PhD, he worked in mass transit analysis in Boston for 45 years. He just retired a year ago. He was involved in all of the major public works projects in Massachusetts, including the Big Dig that went on there for decades. He comes from a distinguished Hyde Park family. His grandfather, James Frank, won the Nobel Prize in physics. There's a building named for him on the campus. He was part of the Manhattan Project. Tom's father, Herman Lisco, was a world-renowned pathologist, did autopsies on the people who were radiated at Los Alamos, and became the associate dean of the medical school. Tom is facing some health issues. He is not able to come from Boston to be with us, but a member of the family will accept Hal Lieberman, who himself was a track star here at the university. Hal.
Track star is a little bit of an overstatement, but I did run, I attended the lab school and the college in the late 50s and early 60s, and during those years I became passionate about running and was a varsity athlete on Ted Hayden's track and cross country teams. And parenthetically, I still think of Ted often while competing as a masters track athlete, and miss him greatly. Forgive me for the digression, but after Lester's digression, I feel like I can do that as well. Anyway, I'm here to honor Tom and to thank the University of Chicago for inducting him into the Athletic Hall of Fame. For reasons which I can't really remember, I also became a great admirer of Tom's during those years in the late 50s and early 60s. You can't tell from the picture, but Tom had a classic swimmer's build, really broad shoulders and a really narrow waist. He had a powerful, fluid, and a graceful freestyle stroke. And as Tom approached the starting blocks, I really remember so well that he, shook out the tension in his shoulders and wrists, and I was always filled with great anticipation. And since Tom was a fierce competitor, it seemed that everybody attending the swim meet in that small Bartlett pool who knew him expected he would win, and he almost never disappointed. In fact, he never disappointed in the 60-yard freestyle in 4 years. I only recently learned that, and quite frankly, that's an amazing, to me, amazing feat. Little did I know that years later I would marry my lab school classmate Karen Lisco, Tom's younger sister. So while this is the closest I'll ever come to the Hall of Fame, as a proud member of the Order of the Sea and as Tom's brother-in-law, I'm very totally pleased to be here and to thank you for the honor on behalf of Tom.
Our next inductee, Dale Letts, of the class of 1931, graduated from the law school in 1935. He set records everywhere he ran, in the 880, the 1,000, and in the mile. We competed in the Big Ten Conference back then, and he won the mile in 1931 with a time of 4:21.6, a remarkable time for that era. At that point in the history of track, the 4-minute mile was at least 25 years down the road. He set a national collegiate record for the half mile when he became national champion in his final year in the college in 1931. During his time here, Amos Alonzo Stagg, the legendary coach, named Dale as one of the top 8 athletes on the entire campus, a remarkable honor for a track star during the Stagg era. He did graduate from the law school here. He worked as a lawyer in Chicago for a time. He then moved to Amarillo, Texas, where he served both as a judge and conducted a private practice of law. Accepting for Dale Letts is his nephew, Louis Letts.
Hello, my name is Louis Letts, and I am nephew of Dale Letts. And I would just like to say one thing first, after listening to Mr. Munson's remarks, that I have always respected the University of Chicago's balance that they've maintained between academics and athletics. That being said, I'm here with my brother Neal Letts and my cousin Marta Mabey, and we are nephews and a niece of Dale. And we've come here to be able to witness Dale's induction into the Hall of Fame. And the reason we're here is because Dale's children, Sarah and David, who live in Amarillo still, could not be here tonight. And the reason that they can't be here is because they're still home in Amarillo taking care of Dale's wife, who is still with us at 96 years of age. And I think Dale was at the University in 1931, so that was a long time ago. David and Sarah both send their extreme regrets at not being able to attend this ceremony, and for the reasons that I said. My father, the other Louis Letts, was also active in sports and athletics at the University of Chicago, and he played football here for the Maroons in the day of Jay Berwanger and Alonzo Stagg. However, when I was growing up, my father, instead of relating his athletic exploits to us, would always regale us with the success, the athletic success of his brother Dale. And so we were told all the time about Dale's track and field success, especially his 880 NCAA record, and also his narrow miss of going to the Berlin Olympics along with Jesse Owens and Ralph Metcalf if he would have made that. Sarah, who is Dale's daughter in Amarillo penned a few words for me to read, and I will do that now. Sarah writes, "My father very much cherished his years at the University of Chicago, and he credited his training on the track team for teaching him both the self-discipline needed to achieve his desired goals and the broadening of his experience of cultures and places across the country. He spoke of seeing cities and countryside he might never have seen without his visits as part of the university's track team. And he came to appreciate the variety inherent in the great melting pot that is America by virtue of those same travels. The friendships he formed during his time on the track team lasted his lifetime, and he would be deeply honored and humbled now by the athletic department's decision to admit him to his Hall of Fame. And he and his family, thank you very much. And the whole family are very honored to have this inductee. Thank you.
Our final inductee was UAA champion 4 times. You cannot do any better than that. Twice he was an All-American in Division III. He's one of only 4 wrestlers to qualify for nationals 3 times in the history of our wrestling program. He was a prize recruit for our wrestling coach, Leo Coker. Leo thought he had Neal Rodak committed. He thought he was coming here, and then Leo began to hear stories that Neal, while still a student at Oak Forest High School, was going around looking at other campuses. So Leo Coker, ever the vigilant coach and recruiter, decided he would pay Neal a visit. He visited him, a high school senior, at his place of work. In the entire history of the NCAA, this is the only visit recorded in which the coach was talking to a potential student athlete who was wearing a Chuck E. Cheese uniform. In Neal's sophomore year, he was 8th in the Nationals. In his junior year, he moved up to 3rd in the Nationals. Big things were expected in his senior year, but as the wrestling team returned home from a tournament, they stopped at it was Valentine's Day. All of the regular restaurants were filled. They went to a fast food restaurant, and sure enough, they got something bad, and Neal came down with a terrible illness, losing 10 pounds of muscle. He was wrestling at that time at 125 pounds, and you cannot possibly lose 10 pounds of muscle. But for the bad meat sauce, he would have been a national champion that year. He is a lawyer. He has worked as a public defender in Phoenix, Arizona. He is presently on duty in the military, a student at the Naval Command and Staff College in Newport, Rhode Island. He is doing a master's in national security. He still participates in wrestling, the Greco-Roman variety, at an elite level. He was at one point number 4 on the Olympic ladder for his weight. It is somewhat interesting that he and another wrestler married twins, Emily and Marley. The other wrestler, that would be Neal's brother-in-law, is a guy named Adam Wheeler. He is here tonight. He won a bronze medal at the Beijing Olympics. Adam, stand up so we can see you. As you can tell by looking at Adam, he wrestled in a different category from Neal. Neal tells me that when they were cutting weight, as wrestlers are perpetually doing, they wanted to stay approximately 100 pounds apart. Then they knew they would be okay. Help me welcome Neal Rodak to the Hall of Fame.
I'm going to pull this down a little bit. As a trial attorney, I typically hate to be behind a podium due to my lack of height, I guess. But I just want to say thanks first and foremost. I kind of as a typical military guy, kind of a three-point agenda. No PowerPoint today, unfortunately for you. But I'd like to thank my family and friends, many of whom came from out of state to be here for me. With the exception of my wife, I'm not going to get into too many specific names, but I do want to thank you all, as well as the folks that are currently watching, all four of my kids who are ages 4, 2, and 2 6-month-olds out on the south side. So I do appreciate those efforts. Emily, I really appreciate your efforts in helping me to get here today, specifically from Rhode Island, where I'm currently attending school, to here tonight, given the fact that we had to do that, leaving at 4 a.m. from our house and traveling this morning with, again, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and 2 6-month-olds. So thank you. Anyone that has kids can appreciate that. Secondarily, I want to get on to talking about two people that, well, briefly, just thanks to all my teammates who are here, and Jim Im and Chris Martella and Matt Eckerman and Nick Piper and anyone else that, I believe those are the individuals, as well as maybe some others, possibly Joe Baczynski, that contributed to the print spread that was in the package, I guess, that everyone received. Finally, I want to kind of conclude, though, talking about what Neal Coker, the head coach, and Joe Baczynski meant to me in my time here. As you heard, Leo had to make a last-minute recruiting ploy, and I was thinking about that because I typically have more well-rehearsed remarks when I'm in a courtroom or giving a military briefing, but I wanted this to be more about what I feel as opposed to what I think. And what I feel is I couldn't appreciate more that effort, because I was probably teetering on doing something that maybe wouldn't have made sense for me and where I was going to end up. And I couldn't appreciate more his effort to come out there and to convince an 18-year-old kid that had really no sense of what it meant to think or how to think or why those things would matter when wrestling was over for me, which took a little bit longer than probably he or I anticipated for wrestling to end for me. But that's a tangent that we won't go into. But he, Leo, I really appreciate that. You taught me how to set goals, how to think strategically. I think there's a lot of thinking that goes on in athletics that's always, not always, I guess, appreciated, especially in an institution like this, as we are here celebrating kind of the molding of the two. I think we just need to take note of that and how important the two can be together. I'm currently at the Naval War College, kind of learning how to, thanks to all of you folks who are paying taxes. I appreciate it. It's been an incredible experience, and hopefully you're going to get some bang for your buck as you're teaching me how to think more strategically. But that really began here, and it began both in the classroom and on the mat. It began with goal setting and learning how to become better, and not just wanting. Everyone would like to win, but I mean, how do you get from here to there? And Leo, I thank you for that, and I thank Joe Baczynski, the eternal, at times, pessimist, I guess, or the guy that always had the ability to point out, you could win 15-2, but Joe wanted to talk about the 2 points that were scored against you, or why, why I wasn't able to beat the guy 17-2. But I appreciate that. That's been a critical analytical ability that I hopefully, through his tutoring, have been able to further and put to some good use, hopefully through what I do in the military and some of the other things I've been able to do in a public service capacity. So I would also like to briefly thank the Duncan family. Your dad spoke highly of all of you, particularly of just kind of the possibility, which was not a possibility for me, of continuing to play or participate in athletics when I left. As you heard, I kind of had a bad experience at the end of my senior year, and it was kind of through the talks I had with him that encouraged me to participate later and have some degree of success, which eventually led to one of the best experiences of my life, which is meeting my wife through Adam Wheeler, the bronze medalist who's here tonight. So I would just like to thank everybody again that showed up and supported me, those of you that were here and helped me both as teammates, friends, and coaches. I greatly appreciate all that. This is a tremendous honor. Congratulations to all the other inductees, and I couldn't be happier to be part of this very prestigious group. Thank you.
Thank you, Lester, for another superb job of honoring our inductees this year. We'd like to invite Damon Cates to say a few words. Damon has demanded that I not give much biographical information, but I'll tell you that he is Associate Vice President of Alumni Relations. Damon Cates.
Thank you very much, Brian, and thank you all for being here this evening to celebrate these tremendous accomplishments. On behalf of over 150,000 alumni around the world, I'd like to extend congratulations to the inductees, their family, and friends. It's a privilege to celebrate the extraordinary achievements of our inductees, and I'm proud that we can honor and preserve their legacies through the University of Chicago Athletics Hall of Fame. As Executive Director of the University of Chicago's Alumni Association, I'm fortunate to meet alumni around the world. In fact, I just flew back today from a trip to London and Paris, so sorry to be a little groggy, but with jet lag a little bit. But I must congratulate everyone involved with this evening for engaging with the university in such an incredibly passionate way. As it is every year, this event truly demonstrates the impact that our athletics programs have on our students, our alumni, and our friends. I hope that you all continue